Taurus, welcome to your Taurus 2022 annual calendar year reading. Hi, I'm Nigel Saint James. For those of you who are stopping by for the first time, and I hope I get to see you again. I think you can join the best club on the Tarotverse. That's here. Now, today, by the way, if you want private readings, check out the information that's in the description. And I do encourage you to look at your monthly readings, which are in depth. This is going to be an overview because time is against us, or you, both of us together. And so I would be suggesting that you do go onto the playlist. It's very easy to see. I put on there the current month and the month before. And then as the calendar ticks over, I just delete the months from those that have lost their use-by date or passed their use-by date. Now I'm going to take 12 cards, one for each. What I'd say, a month of the year as a general overview here. I think you'll enjoy the artwork on this. I might use my pen to point out some of the salient features of what is, I think at least, interesting, that anything that gets thrown up. These paintings are of a medieval sort of a theme, really, which is, I think, enjoyable. So I think you will enjoy it as well. Now, what did I say? Did I say the Five of Cups, the Fool, the Page of Cups, the Two of Wands, the Eight of Wands, the Ten of Coins, the Wheel of Fortune, the Five of Coins, the Six of Coins, the Three of Swords? What else do we have here? There is the Four of Cups, and finally something from in here. The Knight of Cups. Well, interesting indeed. Now, why don't you come sit down here next to me? I'll bring the camera around so that we can look at these cards together, and I'll do the reading for you. Right, now I think you can see those. Let's start here first with the Five of Cups. Now, the imagery on these cards actually will give you, they'll work into your subconscious and they'll elicit for you the meanings of them as well. But let's have a look at some of the artwork here to start with, shall we? This Five of Cups, well, a dying patriarch dictates his will while five of his relatives gather around. Now, at the foot of the bed, a notary, or I suppose it's well, I've called it a notary, and these days we probably call it a lawyer. He records the information with a quill pen. Now, the back of his chair, I notice here, is diagrammatically the same as the Kabbalistic tree of life. I won't go into any Kabbalism, mysticism today. What else can we see here? But other than to say there's a lot of it going on because there's Hebrew letters on these cups here, and they give you some idea of the very deep spiritual meaning of things. But the spiritual readings can be found or aspects of spirituality can be found in the monthly readings. Now, we see here that these seahorses that we see here, you see a couple of these seahorses? Well, of course, we're in the suit of cups, and they relate to aquatic and marine symbology. The two candles are interesting for me here. They relate to the number 2. Now, the mystical meaning of the number 2, of course, is that before we come into flesh, we are one spirit, all of us. And then when we come into this realm, we divide. And then when we leave this realm, we go back into one. So what it says is, don't worry about anything. You come here to learn through good and bad, through sorrow and joy. Yeah. Now, the cups are filled with a green liquid. This green liquid here has a mystical association for me with the planet of Venus. This 5 numerologically has a real meaning of Mars, and I'll get to that in just a second. But one man whose grief is sincere, he really cries into his cups, whereas I think all the others are waiting for the money, don't you? This is really talking about, in some small part, I think, something of a loss in pleasure. It is astrologically Mars ruling the first decan of Scorpio, the 23rd of October to the 2nd of November. Now, we'd expect a really positive aspect in this card as a result of that, because Mars rules Scorpio in classical astrology. There's a co-rulership with Pluto, but I don't go for that myself. But this has also got Mars in the numerology here, and this adds extra fire, extra heat. And the energy, therefore, between the waters of Scorpio and the heat of Mars, Mars being in Scorpio, what happens is that there is an energy imbalance, and the huge amount of fire evaporates the waters of Scorpio. So there may be some unfulfilled expectations or a loss of a sense of balance. There could be some problematic relationships, but they are going to be sorted out, incidentally, I might say. There could even be some unexpected disturbances, because remember, every disappointment in your life contains the possibility of an important learning experience, and that is what this number 2 is telling you here. Maybe you ignore the warnings of your inner voice. Don't, because I think at this time you'll have to face sobering facts and look at them in the eye. But you'll be up to the task, have no fear of that. Let's see what we have here, because I know that you're going to be up to the task, because here comes the Fool. Can you see that? Now, this Fool is dressed in ragged clothes, and he stands dangerously near the edge of the abyss. Now, on his head are 4 feathers. Now, you might make out the different colors of the feathers here. Let me just make sure that you're seeing them. We'll go through these colors that are here now. White, the white feather is for the suit of swords, red for the suit of wands, aqua for the suit of cups, and gold for coins. He carries a rough stick over his left shoulder, and on the end of the stick is a pig's bladder. Now, that's associated with a Catholic saint, anyway, called Saint Roch, who was living in the 1300s. And he's someone who succumbed to the plague, and he is invoked to ward off plagues. Incidentally, I think he's also the patron saint of bachelors. Now, there is a small lion leaping fearlessly onto his leg, but the Fool doesn't worry about that, because the Fool walks without fear, and during this period you won't have fear. You'll take on new projects, you'll take on new life in a way. Now, what's interesting here is that there is a wilted flower at the bottom, which shows the transformation from spirit into the world. We were talking about that too before, and here at the bottom here is a crocodile. Now, I'll say something interesting about the crocodile. The ancient Egyptians thought that a crocodile had no sex because they couldn't work out how to tell whether a crocodile was male or female. They knew a crocodile lay eggs and that it produced baby crocodiles, and so they thought that life developed and sprang spontaneously from crocodiles. And this is the energy that's coming with you now, a great degree of originality and a great degree of new adventures and new things to do which you'll be successful at. That's what's symbolized by that crocodile there. Here we have the Page of Cups. Let's have a look at this page. Can you see that? Where are we? Good. Well, here we have a young drummer dressed in the costume of the Swiss Guards of the Vatican. Now, there is a great degree of Catholic symbology in here, I suppose, or Christian symbology, because, of course, this is a Renaissance deck, and that was the big game in town during those days. But it's beautiful artwork nonetheless. Now, he stands in a green field. Now, in the background is one of the monasteries of Mount Athos. Mount Athos is a part in Greece, and legend, and this is legend, it's not history, but legend has it that the Virgin Mary, while her son was still alive, traveled to Mount Athos and was so taken by it that she asked her son, Jesus, to convert it into a garden for her. And subsequently, of course he did, and as a result, There are today innumerable monasteries on Mount Athos, and the legend also holds that because it was special to the Blessed Virgin Mary, no other women can set foot on Mount Athos and go through the monasteries. I thought I'd just throw that in as something which you might have found interesting there. Now, looking at this page, his face is meek and submissive, but in his hand is a yellow and red cup with an erotic scene of two winged lovers kissing in there. I don't know if you can make it out, but I can see it there. Now, a drum hangs from his shoulder, and in his right hand is a blue copybook and a quill pen. This is telling me that you will, during this period, almost be swept up in romance, I think, and romantic feelings. You will be tender, kind, loving, and gentle, but you will have very much the capacity to be able to crystallize thought into tangible things. He is esoterically earth, and in the suit of cups is water. Putting that earth and water together, almost like a clay, you'll be able to fashion things. And so your ideas will be made tangible, and things will come into manifestation for you. Particularly good energy. Now let's have a look at this Two of Wands, shall we? See what the Two of Wands has to say. Well, I'm just looking at this Two of Wands, and actually, if I was to say it's a two, what's actually happened here is that it appears at first to be two clubs, doesn't it? But actually, it's one that has broken in half, and here at each end we have the fire of the suit of wands there. Now over the top, sitting in the cross forks of the wands here, is the figure of Mephistopheles, the devil, Satan, in the story of Dr. Faustus. And Faustus here is weeping, holding his head in his hands, because he sold his soul to Mephistopheles in order that he might know the secrets of all magic. And interestingly, is this the case? Yes, he's got a little pair of spectacles, two spectacles that are sitting there, which are also symbolic of that number 2. What this is telling me is that you will have in mind things that you want to achieve and which you are setting your heart and mind upon. Now, the astrology of it is Mars. This time, though, Mars in its own sign, Mars in the first decan of Aries, that 21st of March to the 30th of March. This is the Lord of Dominion, I call it. And Mars is in its own sign, which is a tremendous thing. Now, what will happen here is that you will take on some of the characteristics of the other fire signs as well. Now, Aries here, so Aries is about dominion, and Mars at this time is not its usual destructive self here, but in its own sign is the planet of vitality, energy, and assertion. Aries, of course, is saying that you will, during this period, and it's following on from this Fool, saying that you will be exploring and pioneering. Now, the 2 is about balance, so we need to see your energy move in new directions, which is Aries, from a place of balance and harmony, which is the 2, with the confidence and dare I say it, the aggression of Mars. So you might have something like a warlike energy during this time, a dynamic pioneer, domination or mastering a situation. You could well be dominating another. And also not being satisfied with your lot, but you'll be focusing your intent here. Now, This planet of Mars here is really the bearer of dynamic active powers for you, and in his own sign, Aries, the pioneer who constantly seeks new ways and methods of advancement. And this drive forward finds you heading in new directions. Well, that takes us then to this card, which is another great fire card for you during this month. And this is in May, and it says to you, what? Well, let's have a look at the painting and see what we can make of it, shall we? Now, 8 stakes support vines bearing ripe grapes. Soon wine will be made and the village will be enjoying it. Now, among the vines in the foreground, a youth takes the hand to kiss and show his romantic intentions to something of a rather coy young woman. These two same couple are then later seen fighting each other, and there are then 2 children playing, and they have the same colors as the people below here. Now, this is Mercury ruling the first decanate of Sagittarius for you. Really, really good. That first decanate, of course, is the 23rd of November to the 2nd of December. This is the Lord of swiftness. And Mercury is the planet of communication, and Sagittarius has the swiftness of the arrow. And this will produce within you a restless intellect, I think. But this number 8 here, that also has Mercury associated with it mystically for me. And the number 8 also numerologically speaks to me of power, balance, harmony, manifestation, practicality, skill, and decisions. So I think Mercury in Sagittarius here is saying that you need clear, direct, swift communication, and if you employ that, you will overcome any misunderstandings. You'll be overcoming obstacles. Now, events are going to be moving very fast for you at this time, and blockages are going to be removed. Opportunities will be arriving quickly, and the manifestations of results that you have aiming for are imminently to be obtained. Now, I think Mercury is showing its face to you again in this card. This is the 10 of coins, and as I see it, well, let's have a look at the painting first up, as is our practice. Well, there's a rather impressive building in the background. Here is an oak tree. These faces here, I would say, are family members, possibly residing within this rather stately abode. And of course, I can't help but notice that this is actually set out in the exact pattern of the Kabbalistic tree of life. But as I mentioned, we won't go into the spiritual mysticism of the Kabbalah at the moment. Now, I said Mercury was showing its face before, and it is because Mercury is here, and Mercury is in the 3rd decan of Virgo, 13th to the 22nd of September. Now, this is really good because in ordinary astrology, Mercury rules, and it is also exalted in Virgo. So you'll have good communication skills following on from this 8 of Wands, where you need them and we're using them. So you'll continue with your good communication skills. That's the Mercury aspect. And you'll be very good at organizing things. That's the Virgo aspect. So there is success and abundance with this card. I think you'll feel a great degree of prosperity around during this period. You might have a small lottery win. There'll be a supportive and tight-knit family. And for those involved in a family business, I think there could well be some good news for you. Well, shall we have a look at the... What's this one? The Wheel of Fortune. Excellent, excellent. Well, I might come and live. Can I come and stay with you during this period? Get some of your good luck to rub off on me. Now, let's have a look at this painting. What can I make of it? Well, the Wheel of Fortune is gold, and on it are the symbols of the zodiac. Can you see around here? They're all the little different signs of the zodiac, you know, bulls, arrows, rams, and so on. Behind the wheel, blind fortune stands. Now, here is an interesting thing. Her wings, hands, and head touch the wheel in 7 places. You see how there's her head, there's her wings, there's her hands. They touch this wheel in 7 places. Now, this symbolizes the 7 classical planets: Sun, Moon, the Sun out to Saturn, the planets that really do all the heavy lifting in astrology. Now, her wings are red, and behind her a blue circle is there, and that blue circle represents, I think, individual life. Now, 2 boats with figureheads like twisting snakes support the wheel, and they also support blind Fortune's feet. Now, below are the green waters of life, I suppose. The ruler of the wheel, up here, fixed up here at the top, he holds a sphinx and a sword. Now, on the right, a blue figure, you see moving up here. He's ascending the wheel, chasing a golden crown, whereas on the left, on the other side here, there is an older man who is on fire while he is hurtling downward, grasping for his golden crown, which will soon be enveloped by the waters, and below an old man flails around helplessly in the sea. This is speaking of a real turning point in your life. If miracles are not happening now, then definitely something is wrong. What it does suggest, though, is that this is a period where you should remain centered in the wheel. You see how she's kind of centered? She's not there, and she's not there. Because unless you are centered, you might well find for a moment that you are riding high, going up, but you could also find yourself going down, falling into the water and being drowned. So stay centered during this period and you'll get through everything. But great news, new opportunities coming your way. You might have to make changes in your surroundings to make room for the good things and the opportunities which are coming your way. What does good fortune mean for you? This is something which is coming in. And it's coming in, this is an interesting thing here. We have this card, the 5 of coins, sitting between the Wheel of Fortune and the 6. But let's have a look at the 5, see what there is here. And what do we have? Well, here we have the, a romantic, don't you love romance? Men are so romantic, I think. All the great love poetry, all the songs, all the most of the romantic works of literature have all been produced by men, incurable romantics, men. Now, he is kissing the hand of this woman here, and this suggests to me that this might be something of an illicit affair between the two of them. The 5 coins, well, in the center coin here, we have the Chariot of Mars. And then we see, in the other coins, we see the destruction which can occur as a result of just the passage of life, but also the destruction which can occur as a result of vanity, greed, lust, and they're reflected in the elements. This first element here is the element of fire. This is the element of earth. This is the element of the wind, and this is the element with this wave here of water. Now, for some reason here, I think there is something of a brooding going on with you during this period, and I don't know what it is that you're going to be brooding about, but you might even feel pessimistic about something or other. That's not like you at all. This is Mercury ruling the first decan of Taurus, 20th to the 30th of April. So it's nothing for you to be concerned about. This is something that's going to pass, because we have the speed and fluidity of Mercury, which in a sense is liable sometimes to be slowed down by that very stable, fixed earth energy of Taurus. Now, maybe there's some problematic communications going on. Maybe there's some relationships which threaten to break apart. You might feel that things dissolve at your touch and you seem to be condemned to observe while everything around you kind of gets shaky and falls apart. But this isn't the case, you know. Clarifying communication, as these other cards have said, is going to make things happen for you. So what does for you seem like some worries or setbacks or a lack of belief in yourself? Maybe a feeling of self-isolation, or losing your faith in other people or in yourself. This is something which is being forewarned and forearmed for you not to fall prey to and not to fall into the trap of. Because here we have, straight afterwards, this wonderful energy here. This is the Lord of Material Success here for you. Now, what can we see from this artwork? Well, a sentinel with a stout lance guards 6 coins. The coins illustrate the meaning of this card, I think, with different scenes. There is, at the top here, as you can probably see, a miser. You see him there jumping around and luxuriating in all of his gold coins that are there. There is the chariot of Jupiter that's there. There is a fool that's lost all of his money. There's a fool that's come into lots of money. And here is a rose in the shape of a mandala, in the Tibetan Buddhist shapes that people gaze upon in order to meditate. And here there is a rich man handing out some money to a beggar while using some scales to assist him to make sure he doesn't provide too little or too much. Now, what's good about this card for you also is that this is the moon ruling the second decan of Taurus, the 1st to the 10th of May. Now, the moon, as you probably know, is exalted in Taurus in astrology, which is a good sign. But the moon's transient nature means that success, and this is the Lord of material success, may be short-lived. Now, the moon, and there's nothing wrong with that because, well, I'll deal with it now. You see, success is not a continuum. You have a success, you have a success, you have a success, you have a success. It's not one thing the whole time, is it? Now, what happens here is that the moon likes nurturing and comfort, and as you know, Taurus likes material things, so they are really well suited for bringing about material success here. This is external manifestation of the inner success and transformation and generosity, I think, paying it forward, receiving something of a financial boost, I success. A grant or a scholarship is going to be applied for and is going to be obtained, and if people need assistance from the welfare system, that is going to be available to you as well. Now we're getting to the back quarter of the year, so this is October, is it? The Three of Swords. Let's have a look at what this might be. There we go, just get that in a bit. Now, in the painting, a young man is being sent away by his family. The child and the baby have the eyes of the father, symbolizing, I think, the I Ching trigram. San, Kan, Ken, the first, second, and third son, respectively. Now, the young man has eyes like his mother. This scene here is really like the biblical prodigal son, and you'll see that story in, I'm pretty sure it's the Christian Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 11. Now, what we also get is that, it looks like the number of, well, there's a bag, look, this is a bag of coins here, and in here is a prostitute. The reason is that he basically took the money and spent it on drinking and girls and was reduced. Now, in the story, he would have been a Jewish guy. And of course, they have an aversion to pork and meat. And he was reduced to feeding acorns, and here are the acorns, to pigs, which was very unglamorous and unclean activity for him. Nevertheless, he was welcomed home by his father. There was actually, of course, no daughter involved in that story, so Maybe the artist is using some poetic license here, but I see a real redemption here, a real opportunity for redemption here. Now, I think that the image, the feather in his hat is shaped like a question mark. Now, the imagery of this card also relates to the Fool, I think, as emphasized by the Tarot de Marseille Fool, which is up here, the Visconti Storza Fool, which is there, and the Tarot of Mantegna Fool, which is here. And at the hilt, this is on this sideways sword, and at the hilt here, all the hippies will remember that here is the peace sign underneath it. Now, the astrology of this card is straightforward for me, I think, in the position that the card is in underneath this Two of Wands and next to the Six of Coins there, is that it is Saturn in the second decanate of Libra, 3rd to the 12th of October. Now, Saturn in astrology, ordinary astrology, is exalted in Libra, and so we might expect really good things. But there is a number 3 here, and 3 mystically for me is also associated with the planet of Saturn, and so there is a double dose of Saturn in the image, in the energy here. Saturn, as you will recall, is about limits, restrictions, time, form, and formality. And in the Suit of Swords, well, that can be especially difficult here. What we're talking about here is maybe some worries, doubts, lack of clarity, a bit of a heaviness, maybe a tendency, just a tendency sometimes to a little bit of morose thinking about yourself, because the clarity of your thinking might be being restricted by the double dose of Saturn here. But the thing is here, the lesson to be learned is that it is there no less than a mastery of care and worry. A brooding, distrustful outlook must be recognized clearly as negative energy, which separates you from your origins. So I think you'll push through that, any emotional pain or mental anguish or troubles ahead, because you'll step out and you'll look at the big picture. Take some time out of the picture. I personally, Saturn is seen as the great malefic in astrology, in the system of both of Hindu and Western astrology. I'm not so sure that I agree with that, actually. I think what Saturn does is it pushes things along and it provides you with lessons and a path that you were meant to live in order that you might have spiritual and psychological development. The thing about this is that you will be overcoming it. Now, here's this Four of Cups. What an interesting painting it is. Well, what's going on here? What is going on here? Well, a mermaid by the look of it. Is this a mermaid? I think it probably is, looking at this sort of green seaweedy hair that's there. Well, she sits on the back of an old sea serpent whose colour suggests a grown cicada. Now then, there is a little child here holding a ribbon of gold, and he's riding joyfully, or she is riding joyfully behind the mermaid on a green serpent here, which is the color of the newly emerged cicada. Now, the top left transparent, what would you call this sort of cup? Is that called an amphora? I think it might be. An amphora, it contains the legs of a woman frightened by a snake, a spider, and a mouse, symbols of the primitive and instinctive part of the psyche that is usually repressed. Now, the others show a blindfolded Eros. He's the god of erotic love with his bow. Now, Silenus, I'd say this is over here, who is the perpetually drunk son of Pan. And there is down here a dying man in the desert, crawling with his last strength towards a mirage. This is the Lord of blended pleasure here for you. And it is the moon, again, this time in the third decan of Cancer. Now, the moon rules Cancer, which is a great strength of this card. And the underlying message of this card, I think, here, is that you want to be emotionally fulfilled, but in a deep way, don't you? You want a deep relationship. And what this is saying to me is that that's fine, but maybe you're going about it the wrong way. Now, the moon is also associated with the principle of flux and change, and your own emotional states might be shifting like the phases of the moon during this period. There is nevertheless love, tenderness, care, and emotional riches here for you. And then finally, for the December period, we see this, which is the Knight of Cups. Oh, this looks interesting, this Knight of Cups. Hello, Knight of Cups. Well, this looks to me, this figure here, a bit of a Russian feel to this I'm getting from it. The infamous Rasputin, advisor to the last Tsarina of Russia, and her name was Alexandra. Her husband was Tsar Nicholas II, and they both, along with their children, were murdered by the Bolsheviks on, was it the 17th or the 18th of July in 1918? Anyway, now this guy Rasputin, he was the spiritual advisor to the Tsarina, but a lot of people suspected that he was something a little bit more than that. And you can fill in the dots. Now, he's riding a sneering mule over dry, stoning ground. He wears the habit of the monks of Mount Athos, but his heavy boots that are here, and the fastenings here, I'm looking at these, of his jacket. Even though he's making out that he's a man of the faith and wearing the cloak of a monk of Mount Athos, he's actually, those two aspects to him there indicate lawlessness and wealth. Now, with his left hand, he holds the reins, see this? And he's pointing his finger, at you. Now, a large silver chalice is decorated with Cupid and his bow, and that's in his right hand, and in the background there, a crowd of peasants advances towards him. Now, this is talking to me about, well, first of all, as a knight, esoterically that's fire, and in the Suit of Cups that's water. Now, fire and water, if you put them together, what happens? There's a conflict, isn't there? There's a real conflict here. So this is somebody, and that somebody could well be a Pisces or an Aquarius, I think, that you may know of during this time. I call him the Lord of Waves and Waters, the King of the Hosts of the Sea. This is talking that you should surrender to your beloved ones, and that you'll have a capacity for giving and reaching higher emotional planes, possibly even spiritual relationships are around when he's here. You'll be loving and generous, but make sure that you stick to your commitments, because I suspect he could be somebody who has commitment issues. Anyway, that being said, that is the way it is for you this year. Well, I thought that was fascinating, didn't you? It looks like you're going to have a fantastic year ahead of you, probably your best year ever, if I'm any judge of these things. Oh, I think you've got everything going for you, and so you should have too. Now remember, I want to see you in the monthly readings, so don't miss out on those. They're far more in depth than what we've just done now. But until then, remember one thing, and remember it always, and it is that you are a legend. And I look forward to seeing you again next time. Until then, it's bye for now.